Lisa was born with complex congenital heart disease.
Lisa's life was extraordinary. She never complained about her condition. She thought at one point everybody has a heart condition.
Lesia had a very special love of life. She was energetic. She would pick something and actually put all of her energy into it, and she would shine talking about it. And one of those things was volunteerism.
And at one point she said, you know, I should volunteer for the Heart Association since that's, you know, kind of my thing. So from that point on, she was the dedicated volunteer for the Heart Association.
Lisa was very involved as a volunteer with the Heart Walk, as a fundraiser for the Heart Walk. And so we met within my first couple of months of starting at the organization.
The volunteer work she did, the fashion shows, the Heart Walk, volunteer work going to speak to church groups. Yeah, they would call her up, you know, one day and say, can you go talk to a church group tomorrow? And she would go, sure. You know, just no hesitation. If she was available, she would go do it.
Anytime we ever needed anything, you know, to talk about the American Heart Association or to share about the mission or to just be a positive light and energy in a room, we would go to Lisa. We try to, you know, incorporate volunteers into everything that we do. And so she was definitely one that we would lean on a lot, just because of her personality and the way that she could really, really inspire the mission and everybody.
She just led her life. She never stopped, you know, even to the day that she passed away. Nothing ever stopped her. She never stopped living life. She never let her condition stop her from doing anything, really.
And I got the message from Denny that Lisa didn't make it. And I just remember first being devastated in my office and having to talk to we just kind of rallied as an office, right? Like I went out and told the office and we all rallied together, and I just remember feeling this great loss. I remember talking to Denny and saying, like, there has to be something more. Like there has to be something more that we can do. She was such an amazing volunteer and such a light for the mission. There has to be something more that we can do. And so I kind of threw out the idea of putting together a volunteer award in Lisa's honor. Really, when I think about it, there is no better way to honor Lisa and the American Heart Association than by having this award.
The American Heart Association was founded by a group of 6 cardiologists in 1924, and that was the start of volunteerism at the American Heart Association. And every day since then, it has been volunteers who have led and driven this organization. It has been volunteers who have carried the torch of the American Heart Association into the communities we serve.
I think the AHA is the volunteers with a little bit of leadership, right? So I think that we have some structure, but it's the volunteers that are the AHA. All of us that are part of this are volunteering our time, our efforts, our knowledge, our work to try to have healthier, longer lives and to try to improve cardiovascular outcomes.
And the organization really doesn't exist without our volunteers. Volunteering helps the organization move forward. Everything you do when you volunteer for American Heart, you're helping the organization raise funds, and that money goes to research, to programs that help the community. Not to diminish that it's in Lisa's name. My wife and I are honored that it still continues in her name. But more importantly, it continues to recognize a volunteer that's important to the organization.
Volunteerism is at the heart of all we do. And so when we think about the Lesia Bell Volunteer of the Year Award, that really says something about her commitment to volunteerism and what that represents in the community. So, you know, we are proud and really honored that Lisa's family has given us the privilege of recognizing other volunteers in the community in her name.